But what about the animal? Do we move the animal into the computer, the organism? No. The animal might be not affected at all. It might be just like an X-ray. The animal might be completely undamaged. Or the animal might be damaged. The animal might even be dead. It depends on what form the scan takes. Okay. The animal might be dead. The animal might even be dispersed vaporized into a cloud of atoms, like the captain. Okay. But in any of these cases, the animal stays over here. It does not go to the computer. Right? You cannot move an animal into a computer just by transferring information. You cannot send an animal as a message by telegraph. That's only a joke from Alice in Wonderland, right? Just as you cannot send this pen as a message by telegraph. You couldn't send this pen electronically from here to London, let's say, down the wire. That doesn't make any sense. And likewise, it's the same for an animal. An animal is a physical object. Physical objects cannot be converted into pure information and sent by radio or by wire. So if we are animals, uploading transhumanism is impossible. What have I got next? Well, so if the central dogma is true, we cannot be animals. It's also easy to see that if it's true, we cannot be brains, because a brain is also a physical object. You can't move a brain into a computer just by scanning it and transferring information. It looks like we couldn't be physical things at all. We cannot be things made of matter. It's nearly the end. So, yes. So, here's the question that I have. If transhumanism is correct, we're not animals, we're not brains, we're not material things. What are we? What could we be if this were true? What sort of thing could be conscious and intelligent and thinking, and could be first in a human animal and then in a computer? What sort of thing could it be that could move from a person into the computer? I don't know what it could be. The transhumanists have not thought about this question. They don't know what the answer is. I don't think anyone knows what the answer is. I have some thoughts about what the answer might be. Those thoughts seem to me hopeless. The more I think about this question, the more it seems to me unanswerable, though that's a larger topic that I want to talk about today. So this, I think, is the challenge. This is the question that transhumanists have to answer. I don't know what the answer is. I doubt whether it has any answer at all. Thank you very much.
So, Gabriela, and then Nigel.
Can I ask 2 different questions?
Of course. Well, it's up to you. You're in charge.
Well, if they don't take 10 minutes to answer, then it's okay.
No. So, on the branching problem,
Yes.
I have a clarification question.
Yes.
As to Shoemaker's reply to the branching problem.
Yes.
It seems to me, and I want to make sure if I understand this correctly, it seems to me that this response involves like denying the case to the beginning, saying that it's not possible that there are 2 different entities that are psychological continuities within a person. So this is like, to deny the case at the start. Is this correct?
No. No, he discusses the branching problem, but not in connection with uploading the transhumanism, but in connection. I didn't talk about his version. His version says something different. He mentions, he calls it brain state transfer. So in his story, we've got, there's you, and there's me. Okay. Now we hook you and me up to a machine. Okay. What the machine does is it transfers your brain states from your brain into me. Okay. Your brain becomes erased. So you have your thoughts and your thoughts get transferred to me. And of course, this could happen twice, right? You can transfer your brain states or copy them to two people at once. Okay. And he says in this case, neither is you. Okay. And if the machine erases your brain, that's the enemy. You're dead. Okay. Now, but that's just Shoemaker. That's just biography. Someone could deny that the story is possible, but I'm not sure on what basis. If all we're doing is copying information from a person to the computer or from one person to another person, if you could copy it once, you could copy it twice.
Thank you. And the other question, maybe I can ask that.
Well, maybe.
Thank you. That was really stimulating as a presentation. And I had a worry about God making a copy of me, but then I felt okay because God's used to being 3 in 1. So if I could be 2 in 1 as a mathematician, God would be okay with that. But as an aside, that's just an aside. I share a worry about your dismissal of the branching problem because it seems to be question begging. Because you said it's just logically impossible. This may be caricature, but you said something like, it's just not possible for there to be a 1 to 2 or 1 to many relationship of a person. So that's your, that's Olson's dogma, as it were. But if you think about photography, so this is my analogy, when the daguerreotype, early photography, was invented, there was just, if you took a photograph, there was just one photograph, because it was a silver, polished silver plate that was developed, so it's just one. And then we got the negative positive process, and you could, or the Talbot type allowed for multiple copies of photographs.
Yes.
But then you can always go back and say, well, there was the original negative. Yeah, there was the original thing, and everything else is a descendant. Or in the museum practice, people put a big emphasis on a vintage print, which was one made by the photographer at the time the photograph was taken. That was the touchstone for all the subsequent copies, as it were.
Yeah.
But then we have digital photography, and there's just a file. And then photographs have become tokens of a time.
Yes.
They are tokens of a time.
Yeah.
So that's also true that you said, I wrote a book, but every token of your book is still your book. So that's a really interesting one-to-many identity relationship. Why should persons not through technology become one-to-many? It's not logically impossible.
Okay.
There may be contingent reasons, some of which you addressed, but I think it's difficult to see it as a logical problem.
Good, yes. I think your hopeful thought rests on a type token ambiguity. Okay. So the logical objection that I talked about was it's not just Olson's dogma. Okay. The thought is that if you are A, if you and A are 1, and you and B are 1, both A and B are 1, that's just by logic. Okay. But it looks like the transhumanists have to say that this is false. Okay. That A and B are 2, because there are 2 tokens. Right? And we're talking about tokens who are not types. So that's the logical problem. Now, you might say that A and B are, and you are not tokens, but you are types. You might say A and B are both you, in that they are both instances of you. They're both you in the same way that these 2 copies are both the same book. They're both, what would you say, introduction to philosophy, whatever. whatever it is. Okay. That would imply that you were not a token but a type. Right? So maybe that physical object is not Nigel Wilmerton, it's just an instance of a token of Nigel Wilmerton, and there could be lots of other tokens or instances of you. Okay. That would, of course, solve the duplication problem. I suppose they would say that both of these are actually are tokens or instances of Wittgenstein. And it would also solve the branching problem because both branches, both beings would equally be instances or tokens of the same person type. Okay. That implies that you and I are types. We are universals and not particulars. We're types and not tokens. Okay. That's a possible answer to my question. Right? Maybe a conscious thinking being is a type and not a token. Okay. And transhumanists sometimes say things like this. They say that you are a pattern that could be trained. Of course, a brain and a computer could instantiate the same pattern, so they say anyway. But that's assumed. So that would solve all those problems. Okay. I didn't talk about this. But when I think about it, it's very, very, very strange. Think about what type, what universal you could be. So there's some sort of property, some sort of essence of Nigel. Okay, some sort of property. It will have to incorporate all of your psychology, right? Because your psychology is yours. Okay. But of course, your psychology is always changing. So even if this human being now instantiates the essence of Nigel, what about the little baby, 50 years ago? Did it instantiate that essence? That seems unlikely. It's unlikely that anyone will instantiate that essence in 10 years' time.
We just said time vector. This is Nigel at time too. That's the time.
Well, but now it sounds like Nigel at time t and Nigel at time u are different beings. That would imply that you do not persist through time. But it was an assumption.
Just very quickly, Heraclitus would say this way as well. Everything's changing. So it's not a big problem with me changing. Every token of every type changes. My car is a token of a type.
Yeah.
And my car is not as it was when it came off the production line. In fact, it's got different tyres, different engine from other tokens of that type. But it may have non-VW bits in the car.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
What I'm saying is that it looks like so there are these Nigel types. So there's Nigel type 1, the one that we have now. There's Nigel type 2, the one that we had last year. Type 3 that we'll have next year, and so on. Which one is you? Here's a second word. All right, and this is it's the tokens that do all the work. It's the tokens that change and that act and that have causes and effects. The type does not change.